Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of The Niners, a podcast not about football, but a podcast in which I have the privilege of interviewing folks who are living on the cusp. People who are 9 months pregnant, 9 years old, 19 years old, 29, 39, 49, 59 years old, all the way up to folks living in their 90s. And I have the privilege to ask them questions about what it's like to be on the cusp of bringing a new child into this planet, or moving forward into a new decade, or possibly a new century, and also looking back. I ask questions about hopes, dreams, regrets, and we learn advice from folks who are moving into a new stage of their lives. Today, I have the honor to interview Shannon, who is 9 months pregnant and about to bring her second child into the world.
It's wonderful because I think had I not had the experience that I've had as a mom, that drives so much of my passion for maternal health advocacy and research because of the disparities that we see here in this country, the issues that we face in maternal health in this country, and knowing that I have a daughter that down the road maybe will want to be a parent one day, and wanting to make that world better for her and her generation. So that's really what drives it. But it's hard because I know too much. And sometimes I get in my head and the anxiety the health related anxiety really rears its ugly head. So I have to talk myself down or have a rational conversation with my husband, who's an accountant, who, this is not his world. Yeah. And he'll be really honest with me, being like, that's not a rational thought. That's not going to happen. I hope that I remember to savor it. Not so much the sleepless nights. I'm a grouch with no sleep, but the cuddles and the newborn, getting nap trapped where you just have a baby on your chest and you're just like, I can't do anything. And I think 5 years ago, I was like, I can't do anything. But now I'm like, I get to just sit here and hold my baby, who in a couple of years is not going to let me hold him if he's anything like his sister. So it's that benefit of knowing how quickly it all goes. 35, so I'm advanced maternal age. I refuse to say geriatric.
Thank you for not saying that. I think that's the worst label.
I saw somebody say elderly recently. I was like, what?
How problematic on so many levels is Western medicine and the way we treat mamas? And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
I'm trying to, and this is my goal as we move into him actually being here, trying to distance myself a little bit from social media. I tend to doom scroll pretty hard. And it's it's such a hard balance between disconnecting and being aware of what's happening in the world. Because I never want to be like, I had no idea that was happening. What a privilege to not know about how hard life is for some people, right? I always want to be aware of that. And I always want to be aware of the things that are happening in the world. But I think the day-to-day of threads of just people absolutely spiraling out of control, I'm like, that's not helpful for my mental health or for being present with my kids. I want to raise them to be present and to do the things that I did as a 90s kid. Get outside, have fun, don't just sit in front of a screen all day, get messy, make cakes, and all of that requires being present. Yeah, I mean, you can only control what you can control, right? And so I think people come to birth, come to labor, come to pregnancy, come to parenthood with a lot of fear, with a lot of anxiety, with a lot of facing the unknown and feeling really out of control. And so having to remind myself that I can control what I can control, and everything else, all I can do is manage how I react to it, is really important to remember, because parenting is the most humbling experience of my life.
Shannon, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
How are you?
Rocking, rolling, waddling, living the dream.
Rocking, rolling, and waddling. Why are you waddling?
I am having a baby next week.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
By having a baby next week means you are 9 months pregnant.
Very much so.
And for the record, you are the first pregnant woman that we have interviewed on this podcast. Part of the Niners approach is learning from folks on the cusp of things, on the edge of things. 9 years old, 19 years old, 99 years old, and also people who are 9 months pregnant, because talk about an edge and a cusp. And I'm so excited to learn from you today about what's happening.
Thanks.
Shannon, to begin, where are you from and where do you live now?
I am from a town outside of Atlanta, Georgia, Marietta, born and raised, and I am lucky enough to still be there. I've bounced around a little bit, went to college in Nashville, lived in Houston, Texas for a number of years where I met my husband and we had our first daughter. And then in the beginning of the pandemic, I was like, I miss my family. I'm ready to move home. And so back to Marietta.
Back home, and I know you and I have a connection from University of Texas Medical Branch School of
Yeah.
Nursing, and I think, we continue to learn that the nursing world is very, very small. So you've got one kiddo, you've got another one on the way. Can you tell us a little bit about how you spend your time?
Yeah. So my day to day job, I'm a professor of nursing and a program director. So I teach and I work with students to get them across that graduation stage and ready for practice as a registered nurse. So that's like my day to day. I'm also a maternal health researcher. Right now, I'm studying postpartum healthcare utilization. So, how do moms get care after a baby's born, and advocate. So I spend a lot of time doing policy work related to maternal health. I sit on the public policy committee for AWAN, which is the Association of Women's Health, Obstetric, and Neonatal Nurses, our national organization for our specialty. And I'm a mom. Most importantly, my little girl just turned 5 last week.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I don't know where the years went. They were long and short all at the same time.
Uh,
And a wife and a daughter and a sister and an aunt, all the fun things. So my plate is full, but with things that I love. So I'm really lucky in that regard.
Fantastic. And so after your second child is born, you're gonna have 2 kids who are both June babies.
Yes.
Does that make them the same astrological sign?
I need to look at that because
Okay.
when does Gemini end? It ends soon, I think. My daughter is a Gemini, 100%. I call her my Sour Patch Kid because she can be quite spicy, but very, very sweet too. And so I don't know where this little man will live. If he's going to be Cancer or Gemini, I don't know where the cutoff is. I need to look.
Do you have a hope one way or the other before you look? Do you want 2 Geminis? Do you need a
You know,
Cancer on board to balance things out? What's up with that?
Gemini's fun. She keeps us laughing and she keeps us on our toes. And, what a privilege to raise a very spicy little lady in this day and age. And so if I have to Gemini, that's just how it was meant to be.
Shannon, you work in maternal health. You are a mother, a maternal figure about to deliver a baby. Can you tell a little bit of what it's like to have the crossover? You've got the academic knowledge, the policy knowledge, the activism that you're doing, the engagement that you have nationally, and your own familial engagement.
Yeah. It can be hard. It's wonderful because I think had I not had the experience that I've had as a mom, that drives so much of my passion for maternal health advocacy and research because of the disparities that we see here in this country, the issues that we face in maternal health in this country, and knowing that I have a daughter that down the road maybe will want to be a parent one day, and wanting to make that world better for her and her generation. So that's really what drives it, but it's hard because I know too much, and sometimes I get in my head, and the anxiety kinda the health related anxiety really rears its ugly head. So I have to talk myself down or, like, have a rational conversation with my husband, who's an accountant, who, this is not his world.
Great. Totally out of his world.
Yeah, and
What a great counterpoint.
he'll be really honest with me being like, "That's not a rational thought. That's not gonna happen." So it's hard, but it makes it the work that I do really rewarding.
Mm.
And like I said, it really inspires me to do the work of showing up and doing the research and doing the advocacy, which isn't always, it's not a glamorous life by any means, especially in the research world. Um,
And it's bad in Georgia right now. It's bad in the Southeast. It's been bad for a long time when
not
it
for a
comes to
really long time.
healthy outcomes for women and babies.
Yeah, yeah, and I love living here, and I love pouring myself into this work because this is where I grew up. This is home. These are people that live down the road from me, or live in the same county, or live 20 minutes away, who are experiencing health care in such a different way than I do. So that's my like duty to pour back into this community and to try to make it better if I can.
As I recall in nursing school, one of the earliest lessons I learned was the key role of being a nurse is being an advocate. And it sounds like you're doing that on all sorts of levels. Advocating for yourself and in your own headspace. Let's go back into your head. Can you tell us a little bit about what excites you maybe most, or what are some of the things that excite you as you're moving into this next stage of life, of your life? And I heard you say little guy, so it sounds like you're having a boy. What excites you about these next steps?
I think just the benefit of having experience is exciting to me this time around because with our daughter, yes, I have a lot of healthcare experience and I've delivered a lot of babies. I trained as a nurse midwife, was a labor and delivery nurse. So I've done the birth many a time, but I've never taken the baby home with me before. And when they handed her to us and they're like, okay, like you're good to go, we were like, what? Now what?
Shit.
Yeah, like I have this whole like human who like I'm not charting on her. I don't like I'm not giving her meds, but like she's ours. And that adjustment period was really rocky. And now, having the benefit of having this isn't our first rodeo, um, is really exciting because I've and this will be our last. We are two and done.
Okay.
This is a young person's game.
To and through.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. That's the way to put it. This is a young person's game. I'm tired. But having had that experience, I know how fast it goes and I know or I hope that I remember to savor it. Not so much the sleepless nights. I'm a grouch with no sleep, but the cuddles and the newborn, getting nap trapped where you just have a baby on your chest and you're just like, I can't do anything. And I
Mm,
think 5 years ago, I was like, I can't do anything. But now I'm like, I get to just sit here and hold my baby, who in a couple of years is not going to let me hold him if he's
yeah.
anything like his sister. So it's that benefit of knowing how quickly it all goes.
Yeah. Um, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you and how much more are you enjoying these nap traps? Is that also a factor of age?
Yeah, I think so. I'm 35, so I'm advanced maternal age. I refuse to say geriatric.
Thank you for not saying that. I think that's the
Refuse.
worst label.
I saw somebody say elderly recently. I was like, what?
How problematic on so many levels is Western medicine and the way we treat mamas? And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Well, on a study, I think I just saw it this week that said the average age of a mom is now 30.
I believe it.
Yeah,
I
and it's
believe
or
it.
like 29.6 or something. But like it's creeping up and it's, not all geriatric. But anyways, regardless, having the benefit of age, I think is nice too, but it's like I said, I mean, it's a young person's game. The older I get, the more I'm like, oh yeah, I see why people used to do this in their early 20s.
Shannon, other than your body radically changing over the last 9 months, how have you changed in reflecting? Anything surprise you?
You know, I struggled a lot with anxiety my first pregnancy. And I think it was, like we've talked about, just a combination of knowing too much and just never having done this before and wondering, was this normal? Is this not normal? Knowing what's textbook normal and textbook abnormal, but what about that gray zone that so often things fall into? I haven't had that as much this go around, which has been really nice. And I don't know if it's one, the benefit of just, again, it's not my first rodeo,
Hmm.
or two, I'm just busier this time around. And so I don't have time to sit around and like mentally spiral as much as I did the first go around because I'm working full time. And I was last time, but my daughter was born June 2020. So I don't know if you remember what
I keep trying to
birthing.
block that out of
Yeah.
my memory in life, but yes.
Yeah. So I think the context in which my last pregnancy ended was so different than the context now. I mean, the world is still a dumpster fire,
Yep. Yep.
100%, but at least I'm not stuck in my house with just my husband and our dogs this time, which is nice. So I think the context of things being different has helped my mental health substantially this go around.
Are there things that concern you over when you deliver and bringing a new child into the world? Maybe thinking about the next 10 years.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, every kid is different.
Hmm.
What worked for our daughter in terms of sleeping and eating and her temperament, he could be a complete 180 from her. And our tips and tricks that we learned along the way might not be helpful. And so, there's that worry. Again, the world that we're raising children in is always at the forefront of my mind, about making sure that I'm raising good humans first and foremost who want to help people and take care of people is my biggest priority in life, that they're happy, that they're healthy, and that they're good humans. And so that's always something I'm thinking about and, will guide pretty much everything that we do for them in the next 10 years as they grow into these little humans.
The triple H, happy, healthy, and human is good.
Yeah, yes.
What are some things you can do as these worries come up? You mentioned earlier that in the past, when you've got your academic policy mind interfering with your I'm a mama human mind, are there similar tactics that you're able to decrease some of the worries about the future?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to, and this is my goal as we move into like him actually being here, trying to distance myself a little bit from social media. I tend to doom scroll pretty hard. Yeah, and it's like and it's such a hard balance between like disconnecting and being aware of what's happening in the world because I never want to be like I had no idea that was happening. Like, what a privilege to not know about, like, how hard life is for some people, right? I always wanna be aware of that, and I always wanna be aware of the things that are happening in the world, but I think, like, the day to day of, like, threads of just, like, people absolutely spiraling out of control, I'm like, "That's not helpful for my mental health or for being present with my kids." I wanna raise them to be present and to do the things that I did as a 90s kid. Get outside, have fun, don't just sit in front of a screen all day, get messy, make
Mm,
mistakes, and all of that requires being present. And so that's what I'm really trying to be conscious of as we move into this next stage of parenting, especially, having one entering school age and then a newborn, but really thinking about how to be present
that's a whole
to
other edge that you're on with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
other one. Thinking back to the 90s, what song comes to mind that when you listen to help you feel the most present?
I am such a music person, that's so funny that you ask that. You mean, gosh, the 90s. I mean, everything, like, I was such a 90s boy band, Team NSYNC for life, which I know is controversial for some.
Hey,
I don't mean to stir up,
hey, well, on this podcast, again, we can stir what we want,
you know?
but you were there and that's what worked for you then?
Yeah, I mean, 90s boy bands and Britney and all of it, I mean, I think I don't know, I just it was such a different time of life. I keep seeing online that millennials grew up as, like, the absolute best time to grow up as a kid and the absolute worst time to be an adult. I'm like, "Yeah, I feel that deeply."
Being on the cusp of the 90s, I remember climbing trees with my friend Ryan Blosser in his front yard, singing all the lyrics to New Kids on the Block and talking about how much we love them. And I think because we also grew up in a very masculine, toxic masculine, like I think we kind of did that in private because we were afraid what people would think of us.
Yeah.
But we love New Kids. Loved them. Loved
Isn't it funny? I mean, it's just music. Wait, my husband and I talk about this all the time, like, we'll hear, like, an old song and be like, "Man, they don't make music like this anymore," and we're like,
them. Yeah. And maybe that carries over generation to
"I think it
generation.
does." Right.
Shannon, as you think about your second pregnancy, is there any advice that you would want to share with another person who's maybe at 9 months, who's right on that edge?
Yeah, I mean, you can only control what you can control, right? And so I think people come to labor, come to pregnancy, come to parenthood with a lot of fear, with a lot of anxiety, with a lot of facing the unknown and feeling really out of control. And so having to remind myself that like I can control what I can control and everything else, all I can do is manage how I react to it is really important to remember because parenting is the most humbling experience of my life. You know, you know what you know and you know what's right, and you know what's wrong, and you know why a kid should do this and not do this. But let me tell you, 3-year-olds, when they're arguing with you, you're like, there's no rationalizing here. There's no like explaining this to you in a way that you understand. And it's, it's humbling. And so I think coming to it with an open mind and flexibility and the willingness to pivot is really important. If something's not working, kids are like plants, like just water them, like put them in a bathtub with a popsicle or take them outside and get them some sunlight. Like those 2 things work really well. But just being flexible and just knowing that at the end of the day, you are the best parent for your kid. I've had to remind myself that many a time,
You
many a
are
time.
the best parent for your kid. And if you weren't, you probably would not be growing this kid in your belly as we speak.
Yeah.
You are the best parent for your kid. That's beautiful. And can we just highlight popsicles and bathtubs?
Yeah. Oh,
I'm grateful for a
it's
good
elite.
childhood. That would have been icing on the cake. Popsicles in the bathtub.
It is
Because then,
elite.
like, that probably washes all the sticky crap off. Shannon,
I'm telling you, listen, you live and you learn. And yeah, yeah.
have you published on this yet? Are there
I
any
should.
papers? Yeah, get on
Should.
it. I
I
mean,
mean, really,
have your son.
I know.
Take a
Well,
break.
yeah, I have a sample size of 2 just
Have
to
a
make it a little
see,
bit
there
more.
you go. Now it's significant. Shannon, you're onto something.
I've learned from those who have come before me. People are always willing to give advice, and some of it you're like, "That's terrible advice," and some of it you're like, "That tracks. I could see how that would work." So,
Have you ever heard any terrible advice you thought was initially terrible, and then you found yourself having to do that, and you're like, "That was actually really good."
that's a good question. A lot of the stuff around, like, feeding kids is always seems really extreme. Like, you'll have, like, the parents who are like, "No dyes ever, no food dye, no nothing organic. I made my own purees." And then you have, like, the other complete end of the spectrum, which is like, YOLO, whatever. We all ate it and we were relatively fine.
Have another hot dog.
Exactly, like, meh. And so you kind of have to, like, learn to find what works for you and to filter. I don't ever take anything as, like, full 100% that this is a great advice or 100% this is terrible. I think there's grains of truth in everything. I mean, outside of, like, general safety stuff, like, please don't, feed your kids bourbon and Mountain Dew when they're 1. I think sometimes you scoff at, like, "Oh my gosh, I'm only ever gonna feed my kids organic meat and organic
Mm.
vegetables." And then it's like but then real life, and you're like, "Okay, no,
What can
like,
you really do?
I can't." First of all, like, that's really expensive. Second of all, like, I'm never gonna be the parent who's like and there are parents who are like this, and it's their kids, they're raising their kids how they want to. But, like, where they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, we can't have, cake at a birthday party because it's the icing or whatever." And I'm like, outside of, like, a true allergy, which again, I get, and to each their own, but I'm like, I'm not gonna deny my kid, like, is this what I've tried to teach my daughter, and this goes into, like, healthy eating and body image and all the other things that come with raising kids, is sometimes treats versus everyday treats, and cake's a sometimes treat, but if she loves clementines, those are an everyday treat, right? So just kind of,
Yeah.
like, learning to find the balance in everything, I think is perfectionism is a myth. No, perfectionism is a myth. Keep them alive, and again, those 3 H's, right? Happy, healthy, good humans.
Human. Did you ever bring to as your first child was born, your perfectionism? And do you remember a moment where you had to make the decision just to throw it out the window?
Oh, absolutely.
Not your child, the
Yeah.
perfectionism, just to
Yes,
be clear.
absolutely, yeah, to be clear. Absolutely. I am very, very type A. I am very schedule oriented. I am very, like, data driven. So when I was breastfeeding her, she wasn't gaining enough weight, and that set my type A. Oh man, oh, it was bad. I had to rent a scale and do weighted feedings.
Wow.
I'd weigh her, I'd feed her, and then I'd put her back on the scale to, like, see how much she gained.
Mm.
And it was so bad for my mental health because it just made me feel like I was inadequate, that I wasn't making enough to get her through the day or whatever. And so I had to break that. I had to say, like, again, like, what I always told patients, fed is best. Again, as long as it's not bourbon and Mountain Dew, we can work with formula. Formula is not this, like, horrible thing that we put out there. And so having to accept that myself, even knowing that, but, like, my rational versus irrational versus perfectionism, like, "Oh, I have to breastfeed her for a whole year or she's gonna, you know, join the circus and run away." I don't know. Like, but I had to say, "Forget it." So she had some formula, and guess what? She's so smart. She's so great. She's so tall. She's wonderful. I mean, she's fine.
Yeah.
I was formula fed. I'm fine.
Yeah.
You gotta let go of it at some point. If it's impacting your mental health and you're not enjoying parenthood because of some perfectionism that you're holding yourself to, that you wouldn't hold your best friend to, or your
Mm.
sister. Try to think about that. How would I talk to my friends about this? How would I talk to my sister about this? If you would give them grace, like, give yourself
Yeah.
some too.
Yeah. And how amazing if you could begin with yourself, which I know is really hard as human and good humans. Sometimes the better the human, whatever that scale is,
Right.
it's harder and harder to give yourself grace. Shannon, this is my last question is there anything else you want to share with the audience?
Goodness, just enjoy the ride. There's gonna be some high highs, there's gonna be some low lows. There's gonna be times where you look at your partner and think, why did we decide that children were a good idea? We could be dual income, no kids in Paris right now. But then you look at them and they smile at you and they tell you they love you. And you're like, I get emotional every time I talk about it. I'm like, this is it. This was the point for me, at least. I know kids is not for everybody. And I applaud people who realize that and don't have kids, because I think that's really important to know that about yourself. But it's given such a richness to my life in ways that I never would have imagined. So hold on, because it's a roller coaster. But again, you're the best parent for your kid. Ask for help when you need it and try to enjoy it, because it goes by so fast.
This is it. That was that. And Shannon, thank you. And
yes, thank you.
I wish you so much. By the time this podcast is shared, you will have delivered. I wish you so much luck and health and all the support and all the good things. And thank you for supporting mamas all over the country, if not the globe, with the work. Special thanks also to Jen Cornell, who has offered us original music for our intro and outro. I'm Tim Cunningham, and you've been listening to The Niners. Thank you for tuning in to our first episode of The Niners. And I want to share with everyone that Shannon has delivered, and she has a beautiful, healthy baby. Shannon's doing well. The baby's doing well. Shannon, thank you again for sharing your insights on this first episode. Folks, tune in next week to hear an interview with someone on the complete opposite end of the age spectrum. I'll be interviewing my friend Webb, who's in his mid-90s, and we'll hear some stories about global travels, reflections, and hopes for a better future here on The Niners. If you liked the music in our intro and outro, that's original compositions by my friend Jen Cornell, and you can find and learn more about her music at jencello.com. I'm Tim Cunningham, and you've been listening to The Niners.